As well as Vineland, which I read all of, only in about a couple of weeks, you know, it was fairly easy to get through. I've also read the first 182 pages of Against the Day.
And how long did that take you to get to that point?
It took me about a week to get through the first 182 pages. So if I keep on this kind of track, I started it last Tuesday, so 8 days. So I keep on this track, by the time I finished it, it'll be about Christmas. But yeah, so Against the Day, for anyone who doesn't know, is Thomas Pynchon's longest and most ambitious novel. In fact, this is how they explain it on the back of the book. Spanning the period between the Chicago World's Fair of 1893 and the years just after World War I, Against the Day moves from the labour troubles in Colorado to turn of the century New York, from London to Venice to Siberia, Mexico during the Revolution, silent era Hollywood, and one or two places not strictly speaking on the map at all. It is a time of unrestrained corporate greed, false religiosity, moronic fecklessness, and evil intent in high places. Maybe it's not the world, but with a minor adjustment or two, it's what the world might be. Oh. So even the back of the book doesn't have a description of the plot.
What's it about, yeah.
Yeah, so basically from what I've read so far, which is all of part 1, The Light Over the Ranges, which is about 130 pages.
An intimidating looking book, that.
It is. Can you imagine picking that up from Waterstones?
Next to like a girl with a dragon tattoo.
Yeah, Against the Day. Yeah, so it's often seen as being the most difficult Pynchon novel, not just for its length, but also because of the multitude of characters. I'm only 180 pages in, but oh my god, there is at least about 50 characters who've been introduced so far. You've got the Vibe family, you've got the Chums of Chance, the Chums of Chancery, I believe it's called. You've got Darby, you've got there's just like so many different characters that are introduced. Pretty much the whole of the first part is this Chicago World's Fair. That's basically just an introduction. So the introduction's 130 pages essentially. It starts with the Chums of Chancery, which I think are just the Chums of Chance. So the Chums of Chance ride their airship, the Inconvenience, to the Chicago's World Fair of 1893. They're our entryway into the novel. So the Chums of Chance are like a group of like swashbuckling lads. It's like a piss take of there's them like adventure novels of the early 1900s.
Like Aero Flynn types.
Yeah, so basically, like Daring Do. Look at these men on their airship.
Go to the deep jungles of Africa.
Yes, there's even a bit like the beginning of the second bit that I'm reading, Iceland Spa, is almost like that, set in like the Antarctic. They go looking for like the Iceland Spa, and so basically it's like there's even bits where it's like to see further adventures of the Chums, check out the Chums of Chance versus the African continent. Like piss tape parodies like that. Yeah. So they're the way we enter into the Chicago World Fair, and through them it then expands exponentially through to different characters and different things. That's the whole of like the first chapter is set at the Chicago World Fair. You've got brilliant stuff that's all set in, and it's like building up the themes and characters, but nothing of like, there is no real plot that's been started yet. I was just going to say, no, what I've been doing is just in order to make sure that I don't miss anything because it's so long, after every bit I've just been actually noting down just what happens, just so that I can go back and make sure that I don't actually miss anything, like in terms of like what's actually going on.
I used to do that when I went through my Russian literature phase.
Oh yeah, a lot like Dostoevsky.
Yeah, like The Idiot and Crown Punishment. I used to write down like all the character names and like what their relationship was to the other characters. Yeah. That became like my bookmark, and whenever I met a new character, I'd note down that character and who he was or who she was and what the relationship was, and I just had to build it up. That was the only way I could read.
Well, that's what this is sort of like, because there are so many characters and it's so dense with theme and content. Yeah,
so much is packed into each frame.
But what the book does, which is a thing that I was saying that Inherent Vice, the film Inherent Vice, but it's like what it does is it's presenting all these characters at once. It's not doing like one story, then another, then another. It's like they'll meet a character, and then there'll be 10 pages of backstory for this character. There's a brilliant bit where there's a detective called Lou, and he's introduced because he's like on the beat covering the Chicago World Fair, and it goes back into his backstory of how he became a detective, how he ended up going to, I believe it's Colorado, to head up the office there, and all this stuff. So this basically first chapter, it's all building, setting up things, and there's also a lot in the novel that surprised me about class difference. Like there are constant speeches by the characters about wage slavery and the fact that the rich people at the time were owners of all the land and everything, and people getting paid like $3 a day to do hard manual labour. And it's all about that because the novel is also about the death of the West and the rise of anarchy. Like there are a lot of anarchists in the novel, so people who are just blowing stuff up just to create obviously havoc. Obviously anarchy.
Anarchy, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of the characters are anarchists or socialists. There's a big part of the novel about there's a character called Kit Traverse, who is a again these character names. So there's Kit Traverse, who is an electrician's apprentice. He wants to help Nikola Tesla, David Bowie himself.
Yes.
Nikola Tesla to provide free electricity for everyone. So there's a lot of stuff there about the sort of like how the powers that be trying to stop Nikola Tesla from inventing this free energy device. And a lot of it is all to do with how the mixture between, because obviously it's early America or early modern America, the way that science feeds into capitalism, which feeds into again fake. There's a lot of fake stuff about fake religion, as it says on the back, and like is anarchy any more ridiculous a religion than like Christianity? Or like, I also think you could draw a parallel. This book was written in 2006 to the treatment of the anarchists in this book who were trying to blow stuff up with the war on terror.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he's drawing a lot of the stuff. I think the whole intent of the book, as I say, I'm only a couple hundred pages into it, is to draw parallels between turn of the century, or turn of obviously 1800s to 1900s America to current America.
You could even say turn of the century America now.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Literally, because you had it like 1800s, 1900s, and 1900s to 2000s. Yeah.
So yeah, he's trying to contrast, like, obviously all the same stuff is happening again. It's like people are blowing things up to cause anarchy. There's massive unrest among the people. There's huge disproportions in terms of wealth. So he's drawing the parallels between one era to a next. It's almost like an assault on that idea. You know, the stupid idea that people have. Ooh, everything was better back then.
Oh.
Nothing was bad. The streets were paved with gold.
Oh yeah, it's stupid and wrong.
Yeah, it's stupid and wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like all the stuff, I mean, it's even worse obviously in this era, this like late turn of the century then and turn of the century now, because obviously people had less, people were struggling for anything. All the stuff, everything that we take for granted now is hard to come by. I mean, they wouldn't even have had mass-produced versions of Against the Day. It would have had to be 100 pages long.
Yeah,
because you couldn't afford the printing press costs, could you?
Well, the way we used to publish like Charles Dickens' stories was like as issues
week by week in newspapers and stuff.
Yeah, that's what like Oliver Twist. We did it like week by week, a new instalment in the story, and that's how we did. So yeah, we couldn't afford to print it all at once.
Yeah.
If I went as far as into the 50s. Like obviously after World War II, the only reason why Lord of the Rings is a trilogy is because the publishers refused to publish a 1,000-page book.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
Exactly.
That's the only reason why it's a trilogy.
Yeah.
How's that? It's interesting. Isn't it?
That is very interesting, you see. Yeah. So yeah, all this stuff that people, he's trying to say that even though things, there's all these issues now, there was still always those issues. America is founded upon the idea of cheap immigrant labour combined with massive wealth inequality.
Rampant consumerism.
But
America has got what you get when you found a nation entirely based on capitalism.
Yeah.
Basically.
Exactly. No wonder they all hate socialism so much.
Exactly, yeah. Free healthcare and all that.
Yeah, exactly. It's but yeah, this book feels like a author's coming to the end of his life and wants to shove every single idea he's ever had into one work.
One last big massive hurrah before he gets too old to write anymore.
Yeah, he actually wrote 2 novels after this in quick succession, which were Inherent Vice and Bleeding Edge. But you almost, because obviously no one knows anything about him, you almost get the idea that when he started the novel, he might have had given a cancer diagnosis, and he thought, oh no, I've only got 5 years to write everything, I might as well shove every little detail
into one book.
You could imagine that when he wrote this, 2006, he'd been a novelist for like 50 years. It almost feels like, he might have taken every single note he had and then just gone, putting it all together, putting everything in there. Can you imagine trying to copy edit it?
Oh,
it would just be a fucking nightmare.
I'd hate to be his copy editor.
Yeah.
I'd hate to be Thomas Pynchon's editor.
Don't imagine that. Imagine if this were actually like 2,000 pages when he started and his editor just refused to publish it.
Going through like a big blue pencil. No. Cut. No. The dog talks.
There is a dog in it, but he doesn't talk. He's called Pugnax. He's the chum's dog that's on board. He doesn't talk, but he does I think he communicates with the chums in ways. Okay. He's like an equal member of the chums of chance. It also has a lot of mystical stuff in it that you wouldn't get in other Pynchon books. There's an amazing bit where a character has a dream where he's in a museum, and then the museum has everything he's ever done in it, and then it's really weird. He becomes the museum. I think it's really, really strange sort of stuff happens within the novel. It's much more odd and mystical than anything else he's done. It's the one that feels, although most grounded in terms of themes and ideas, because all the stuff he's talking about is still relevant and still purposeful. It's the one where the plot and narrative are quite difficult to discern. It's hard to tell at the moment. There are novels that you can read that are 200 pages long. I actually did take a break when I got about 100 pages in to read an 80-page novel called The Prague Orgy by Philip Roth, which only took me about an hour.
Fair.
So, you can read a whole novel in a half of the time that it's taken me to read.
God.
This, the one part of it, and it's quite hard to discern what's going, who the characters are at this point, or what the main plot is going to be. There hasn't really been one. There have been characters introduced that do individual things. There hasn't been one grand sweeping narrative yet, if there even is going to be one.
Yeah.
A lot of his novels take the form of each chapter is a short story that's loosely related to everything else. So each one of his books is more about it's a short story structure that all adds up to one big thing. But so that's what I think of the first. They're absolutely amazing. It's easily the most difficult Pynchon novel so far, just because of that. Even though it's relatively accessible in some ways, the writing style is more clear than Gravity's Rainbow, but it is just so dense and so full of character, it will put people off. But yes, that's what if and I'll let the audience vote. If anyone watches this, do you want me to keep going 200 pages at a time, which I imagine it'll take me each week, or wait and do a whole review of the whole thing? Leave a comment, see what you want. But so far it seems to be a great, albeit profoundly difficult novel. I'm fairly sure this is one of the longest mainstream novels ever written. There's obviously War and Peace is a similar length.
War and Peace, Lord of the Rings.
Would you count it as one if it's a trilogy?
Nah, it's one book.
Oh, okay.
It's one film and it's one book.
Alright.
Yeah.
But only a couple minutes left. Yeah, so Against the Day.
It was intended by the author to be one book.
Yeah.
Also respecting the author's intentions.
Is it 1,000 pages long?
Yeah, over. So 1,200 pages, I think, Lord of the Rings.
Oh, this is 1,250.
No, but the longest commercial book is War and Peace.
Yeah. How long is it? I've got it at home.
I've got it as well. Well over 1,000 pages.
Yeah.
I think it's in the 1,400 range.
Jesus.
If you were to get a Penguin copy, on really nice paper and in nice font, it'll be about 1,400 pages. I reached the conclusion with Watchmen because it's kind of similar to, what's it called? Against the Day?
Against the Day, yeah.
Yeah, Watchmen is so dense and complex, I think it's best tackled just if I could do it one issue at a time, I'd prefer to do that, but I'd be here forever then. Yeah. So just doing the first 6 issues was much more manageable, and it means you won't miss anything. So My personal vote would be just keep doing it 200 pages at a time.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that makes sense.
And getting more into specific plot rather than this, which is more about the sort of feeling and vibe of the novel.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, what do you want?